Hi there guys, and welcome to another Train Sim 2020 video. I was about to say TSW 2020 there, that would have been silly. Today we are doing something that I have been meaning to really sit and do for a long time, which is learn how to drive the 76. And learn how to drive the 76 properly. So a little bit of preamble to this. When BR Woodhead and BR Blue came out, the script on this loco was done by one of DTG's guys called Ed Fisk. And he is the guy responsible for the script in the 47, several other first gen 47, all sorts of other ones, and also done quite a lot with TSW as well. Really good guy. I have met him once actually, a nice fella. But the manual he created for this didn't end up going out with the DTG product itself, so it didn't actually come with the BR Woodhead and Blue. Woodhead and BR Blue. I'm going to just keep saying that wrong the whole time. Actual manual in your manuals folder in your TS install. He created a separate manual that didn't actually end up going out. That manual is available. It's on my Facebook group. If you just search the group for BR Class 76 manual, you'll find the post where it was posted a long time ago. So I've got to learn how to do it, and I thought might as well take you guys along for the ride with me. It's not going to be a professional this is that video. We're going to do this together. So you'll be learning with me. It's not I know it. I haven't read through it properly. I know very little about this loco and how it works. So we're going to be doing it together. So you'll see my reactions and everything like that, as well as me sort of going, oh no, not like that. Oh yeah, like that. Not going to cover absolutely everything in this video. I might do a follow-up video later on talking about the brake timers and everything like that, because there's all sorts of quite in-depth simulation with this. This is a seriously advanced locomotive, and there are systems in it that are pretty unique to the 1500 volt DC 76s. So let's get started. This is, just to say, this is one of the Seven Hills simulations scenario pack that came with that's now available. It's a payware scenario pack available through Steam. Seven Hills Simulations, I think, has got something to do with Richard Fletcher, who you guys will know from the freeware community. So this is, I think, one of his first forays into payware stuff, which is quite nice to see. Right, anyway, the reason I'm doing this video is so I can drive some of these and show off the pack, because I've always been a big fan of Mr. Fletcher's work. So, preparing to move. Before getting moving, we need to do a few checks to make sure the locomotive is in a safe state to move. So, upon entry to the cab, check the controls key switch is on. It is. Next to visual observation, check the pantographs. They are up. Ensure that handbrakes, they're off. And correct brake modes. Now, I know they're already set. I'm not going to go into the brake modes just yet. It's on air goods. That's what it needs to be at now. And it says, depress the dead man's pedal, control D. Advanced mode only. So am I not in advanced mode? I don't know. To get the train moving, apply the loco straight air brake. While releasing. Stick that in release, not overcharge. Move the weight transfer switch to the on position. That's this, isn't it? No, this one. So that's on. Move the reverser to the desired direction of travel. So we want that forward. Move the combination lever to series. You should hear a clunk followed by the sound of a contact opening and shortly after closing. Once you hear the second contactor close, approximately 2 seconds later, the locomotive is in series and ready to move. Open throttle to notch 1 and release the locomotive straight air brake. Slowly open the throttle notch by notch, bringing the ammeter up to around 800 amps. Okay. Let's get this lights on. So we've got our brakes off. Let's bring our straight air brake off. Is the armature at once up to that, is it? Once at 800 amps, let the ammeter drop to 700 before taking another notch, and repeat the process until you reach full notch. Okay, we're speeding. We've got a red up ahead. So to read that again, slowly open the throttle notch by notch, bringing the ammeter up to around 800 amps. Once at 800 amps, let the ammeter drop to 700 amps before taking another notch, and repeat the process until you reach full field notch 15. Okay? Oh, we've got a yellow. Do you really want me to take it up to 800 amps? Seems pretty high to me. Okay. It's quite a cool thing to drive. We're empty, I think. Yeah, we're empty. Oh, advanced mode is now enabled. Failures are now possible. Just realised I've got no AWS. Ooh. Right, 45 mile an hour is our maximum speed. So it says here, accelerating further. If more speed is required, there are two options. The first is to transition into parallel, or the second is to go into weak field. If you aren't expecting or required to go much more than 35-40 miles an hour, going into weak field should be sufficient. If it is desired to go faster, transition into parallel. So let's go into weak field. So to go into weak field, the weight transfer switch must be closed. The locomotive will not take weak field notches if the switch is open. Once current drops around 650 amps, move the power handle to WF1 and continue notching once current drops to 650. Where is WF? Don't know where WF is. Let's keep it in. Let's just go into parallel. Keep the weight transfer switch open. Move the combination lever to the parallel position. When the current in notch 15 is no more than 700 amps, move the lever quickly back to notch 1. There's the contactor. Contactor open, then close 2 seconds later. There should be a slight rise in the ammeter reading once it occurs. Once you see this occur, you are now in parallel and may continue to notch up as before, section 2.3 until reaching full field. We can go straight into full field then. So note, if the handle is moved to the off position, it will automatically drop back to series, regardless of whether the combination lever is in. As such, connections in notch 1 must be remade if the handle is returned to off. In advanced mode, simulation of the motor and resistor bank temperature is enabled. The motors have a 1 hour rating of around 540 amps at 26 miles per hour. This means at that speed the motors can sustain 540 amps from cold for 1 hour before failing. At lower speeds, with the motors rotating slower, the cooling is less effective and so the 1 hour rating decreases. While at higher speeds, it's slightly higher. At higher currents, the motor will heat up significantly higher, and so currents in excess of 550 amps should only be taken for brief periods while accelerating. In addition to the resistor banks, also run warm when in use. They're used in notches 1 to 14, so you should not stay in these notches for very long, hence quickly getting up to full field is required. Right, I get it now. In notch 2 and 3, the resistor banks can quite easily burn out in 2 to 3 minutes at low speeds. If either the resistor banks or the motors heat up too much, to the extent where components melt, the locomotive will be declared a total failure and you'll be unable to continue your journey. If the motors or resistor banks are running dangerous hot, the fault light will illuminate and not extinguishable through either of the reset buttons. There's weak field. I found weak field. Oh, I didn't go into parallel, did I? Let's just go into weak field. So you have to press E to take it into weak field. We're only doing 40 miles an hour, so that's fine. Right, regenerative braking. This is another little addition to this loco that I am wanting to learn how to do. One incredibly useful feature of the Class 76 is regenerative brakes, which use the motors to create a braking effect whilst regenerating electricity into the overheads, which can be used to assist trains climbing up the other side. Please note that the regenerative brakes are inoperative if the weight transfer switch is in the on position. That needs to be off. So there we go, now we're in Wingfield. You see when I'm pressing E, look, that little button goes in. If speed while regenerative is likely to be between 16 and 33 mile per hour and unlikely to be much above 33 miles an hour, then move the combination lever to series. If speed is likely to be between 33 and 55 miles an hour and unlikely to be below 33 miles per hour, select parallel. Speed may need to be maintained by the friction brakes until set up. It's quite exciting learning the new loco. Right, so we're going to be between 16 and 33. So with the combination lever set in the required position above, move the regenerative handle to its first notch. If in parallel, it'll take around 2 seconds for the parallel connections to be made from series. Once the connections have been made, move the regenerative brake handle towards you until the motor voltmeter reads approximately the line voltage. Move the power handle straight to notch 15 and do not pause in any notch. So you don't pause in any notch to prevent the resistors heating up. To produce a braking effort, move the regenerative brake handle towards you. You should note the motor voltmeter reading increasing and the armature reading increasing. The higher the current on the armature and field armatures, the more braking effort is being generated. The regenerative brake is incredibly useful to maintain constant speed at given excitation, regenerative braking handle position in other words. There'll be a balance speed once the train reaches this speed. Going any faster will cause the motors to degenerate, creating a braking effect, while if the speed slows down, the motors will begin motoring, increasing the speed. As such, the speed will be kept within very tight margins. To increase the speed, move the handle towards motoring or the off position, push away to decrease the speed, pull it towards you. Oh, I think I've just overloaded it. Oh no, it was wheel slip. No, I have got a fault light. And we're not producing any amps. Oh, there I am in 800. That's up at 800 amps. We're doing something now. Maybe I just didn't have it set up properly. Oh, I've blown it again. Got to be careful not to cook it. Was it 540 amps at 26 mile an hour? We're doing all right. We're doing all right. So there is this thing here called the clear call system. So the Class 76 is fitted with an intercom system to allow drivers on opposite ends of the train to communicate. It uses the overhead wires to operate. In-game we have a slightly modified version of the system to act as a power controller for the bankers. The switch has 4 settings: off, quarter power, half power and full power. When bankers are present in the train formation, the switch can be used to control the power the bankers are applying. For example, if you're applying half power and the switch is set to half power, the bankers will apply half power, your lead locos are. There is also a call button which sounds a buzzer on each loco. Other than that, it has no function. Oh, okay. We are cooking this lot, and this is empty going up this gradient. Don't know where I should have my weight transfer switch. So faults and failures on the Class 76. There are a number of faults and failures which could occur in standard mode. They're somewhat simplified or not present. In standard mode, the main fault occurs on the overload trip, which activates if the current exceeds 950 amps. To reset the trip, the power handle must be in return to the off position. Upon reaching the off position, the overload will automatically reset, so you don't have to press the overload reset. In advanced mode, the same trip applies but differs in how it's reset. There are 2 reset buttons in the Class 76. The first is located between the pantograph raise and lower buttons. This is a local reset for the specific 76 you are driving. The other reset button is located next to the fault light and will reset the overload relays on all locos and multiple, including the one you are driving. If you're in a formation with more than one lead locomotive, the main fault button must be reset, otherwise the local reset should be sufficient. I do like that feature. Silly, I know, but I like it. Control Shift and I. Oh, anytime I'm stationary, the status of the motor's resistance and any control interlocks can be checked with Control Shift I. So you can get the overload, which is spoken about, then you can get resistor high temperature. Resistors are running hot and care must be taken not to burn them out. Symptoms: fault light illuminated and isn't extinguishable. Excessive current for prolonged periods is the cause of that. Remedy: stop using resistance notches until fault light extinguishes by itself. Do not move combination lever to off, otherwise motor blowers and hence cooling will cease. And that's an advanced mode only, sir. So how would you use that? Am I being really dumb here? How would you use the resistance there? How would you... Is there a way of not using resistance mode then? I'm not sure about. Okay, you can then get resistor burnout. Resistors have got run so hot that one or more components has failed. Symptoms: fault light illuminated, loss of power, line switch light extinguishes with power handle open, failure message. Cause: excessive current for prolonged periods. Remedy: none. Locomotive is a complete failure. Traction motor high temperature. Traction motors are running hot and must be taken not to burn them out. Fault light illuminated isn't extinguishable. Cause: excessive current for long periods. Remedy: reduce and cut power until fault light extinguishes by itself. Do not move combination lever to off, otherwise motor blowers. Oh, it's the combination lever, not the power lever. Got it now. And then the traction motor burnout is a failure. Loss of line volts. Voltmeter reading less than 900 volts is a loss of traction power. Pantograph dropped, overhead line fault. Check pantograph is raised, otherwise shut off power and wait for the line voltage to return. That's quite cool if that's included in this. Overhead line fault can only be caused through scenario scripting. Large drop in line volts. Line voltage not in usual operating range, 1350 to 1650 volts. Symptom: line voltmeter reading is not between the bands 1350 and 1560. Cause: one or more substations have tripped or failed, meaning voltage is being provided from a substation some considerable distance away, resulting in a voltage drop. Remedy: wait for voltage to return to normal and reduce power to reduce load on substation. Substation line fault can only be caused through scenario scripting. That's very cool. I'd like to do that. Oh, would it? Air brake traction interlock. To prevent damage from occurring or moving with inoperative brakes, power will be cut. Symptoms: loss of traction power, line switch light extinguishes with power handle when open. Cause is air brake pipe pressure drop below 45 psi or main reservoir pressure drop below 80 psi. Remedy: increase brake pipe pressure above 62 psi and wait for main reservoir pressure to increase to 95. There is then dead man's demand. We can actually go into weak field now. Dead man's device has activated, bringing about an emergency application of the air brakes. Loss of traction power, line switch extinguishers with power handle open, train pipe pressure rapidly dropping. Cause dead man's pedal or holdover button not depressed while reversing in the forward direction and 6-second delay period exceeded. To remedy that, move the throttles off, depress dead man's pedal and make a full application of the locomotive straight air brake. Once made, the demand should cease, the brakes release and traction power should return. It is nice in here. If a bit noisy, but these were pre-war designs, weren't they? Just looking through the scenario editions for this route, there are even, so you can do brake mode sets, you can do substation faults, line voltage faults, and track type. So use 0 for clean mainline tracks, frequently used, 1 for less frequently used tracks, and 2 for very infrequently used tracks, a fairly rusty railhead. Some really cool bits in this. Right, when we come out of Woodhead, we're going to be going downhill, so we use a bit of the regenerative brake, and then we'll use the rear static brake and air brakes to stop at the bottom. And then we'll actually maybe go and do an actual scenario. I'm going to get my speed. Yeah, my speed will get. There we go, down to 40. This is where I need to be using the regen brake. Can that not hold me? I don't think something's right here. Let's put a bit of brake on. Oh, it's because I should have been in parallel. Right, how was I to put it into parallel again? Oh no, let's look at rear stack systems since we're slowing down. Right, the locomotive is fitted with a rear static brakes, which operate relatively similar to the regenerative brakes, but not exactly. These brakes are operative as a series only and are effective right down to basically stationary. They shouldn't really be used above 20 miles an hour, as the high current will very quickly burn out the resistors. Indeed, the brake should only really be used in emergencies or poor adhesion conditions. Rear static switch has 4 positions: off, B1, B2, B3, which alter the excitation of the motor fields. The higher the excitation, the higher the currents which flow in the armature. Regenerative braking occurs. It should start slowly rolling now. Oh, I've broken it. Did I overload it? Yeah. Doesn't massively tell you the keyboard commands in this manual, which is slightly irritating. Tells you some of them. Do apologise about the mad dog. Right, let's try and use that rear static brake again. I still don't quite understand that. To begin rear static braking, move the rear static brake switch to the desired excitation system, open the power handle, and the rear static braking should commence, indicated by the ammeter, which should now show a current. And to increase braking effort, increase the throttle setting. This decreases the resistance, increases the current. What? No, I think I can't tell which is on or off. That's off. Right, that's on 4. That's taking power. Okay. I'm relatively happy with that little introduction to it. What I will do is I'll go and do a scenario with this now, a heavy train, and see how we get on. Well, I hope you enjoyed that strange little video. Again, it was just one of those ones that I wanted to sort of do with you, instead of me just practicing by myself, and you might as well see it happen. So once again, thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Please feel free to like, share and subscribe. Head over to thomsonsim.com for all your latest freeware, payware and subware needs. Also head over to the Facebook group, link is in the description below, and also head over to Twitch on a Sunday night from 7 PM and a Wednesday night from 7 PM for a little bit more of an adult themed pub environment talk about trains. Once again, guys, thanks ever so much, and I'll catch you next time.